All right, so we got to figure out who's going to dethrone the Philadelphia Eagles. But before we even go to the AFC, we got to get the Eagles to the Super Bowl or whoever's going to dethrone them to the Super Bowl. I'll talk about those NFC teams in just a second here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
No doubt, it is your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On NFL podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast, man. Whether you watch or listen, make sure you tap into that location, whether you're audio or if you're watching on video. We are there every single day. If I can fix my glasses here. Yeah, there you go. We're there every single day to make sure you don't miss any NFL action. Of course, today is Wednesday. That means that I have my buddy David Harrison of Locked On Commanders and, of course, our Locked On Squad shows right here with me to talk about the NFL. And this is what we're going to go through. I'm going to tell you right now, real quick, what we're going to do. We're going to talk about teams in the NFC that have a chance to dethrone the Philadelphia Eagles. Who are those teams? In the third segment, Rams and Packers. They got a legitimate shot. In the middle of the show, Bucs and Cowboys. Yup, I said the Dallas Cowboys have a chance. And I'm not laughing. Well, I kind of am, but I'm not. All right. At the top, Lions and Commanders. Those are the teams that we're going to examine and look at. But first of all, David, we got to talk about Philly. Mm-hmm. And the Eagles themselves have done a really, really good job building their team, building their offense in the offseason. They re-signed Nick Sirianni. They did lose their offense coordinator, Kellen Moore, because he's now the coach of the Saints, but they still have Vic Fangio. Yeah. But no team has won the NFC East in consecutive years for an awfully long time. So first of all, give me your spill on all of that.
I think that, the NFC East has just been a very competitive division from top to bottom, and some of it has been, circumstantial and contextual. I remember 2020 when the Commanders, then they were the Washington football team. They won the NFC East, and they did it with a losing record, and they did it because, there were injuries up and down the board. I think the most significant one that season was Dak Prescott getting injured pretty early in the season and basically derailed the Dallas Cowboys, who I think were probably going to be the best team in that division that year had it not been for that injury. So, for whatever sense of purpose, I think that, like I said, in the ultimate team sport, when one injury, even to a quarterback, can really derail your entire effort, it just kind of shows you, how fragile the infrastructure of an NFL team can be. So I think that when we have these conversations, it is important to acknowledge, like you said, the Philadelphia Eagles, yeah, they've got a lot of talent on their roster, but guess what? They had a lot of talent on their roster in 2023 as well. And Nick Sirianni damn near got fired after 2023 because of what went down. Yeah. It wasn't until he went out, got Vic Fangio for his defense, got Kellen Moore for his offense, that things started clicking again. Although, again, if we go back to the beginning of 2024, things were not clicking all that well. It took Kellen Moore to essentially realize that he had to lean on Saquon Barkley, couldn't lean on Jalen Hurts the way that he originally wanted to in order to be successful. Fortunately for the Eagles, they figured that out in time. Saquon Barkley should have set some records in the NFL last year. That's another story. The question now is going to be the same question we've been asking about Derrick Henry for year and year and year and year is, can the Eagles once again ride their running back all the way to the postseason, all the way to the Super Bowl? Because this Eagles team, we talked about this last year, Wig, looks very much like a team that if they lose Saquon Barkley, they lose a lot of their teeth. I'm not saying they're a bad team. They're just not as good by a long shot as they are with Saquon. So, that can come, knock on wood that it doesn't, but it can come at any moment in time. And this new offensive coordinator, how is he really going to incorporate Saquon Barkley? Because as easy as it is for you and I to sit here and say, well, no, duh, you're going to incorporate Saquon Barkley as much as you possibly can. We've also seen coaches with really great weapons decide, I'm just not going to use them that much or that effectively because I know better and none of you are going to tell me nothing about my business. So could that happen here with Philly? It certainly could. I think a lot of that is going to come into play on whether or not the Eagles are even as good on the field as they are on paper in 2025.
All right, A.J. Dillon's going to help a little bit. One of the things I said is they needed to get a proven running back, especially in short yardage situations that can take away some of that pounding that Saquon. You give him an extension, you get him some help. Because you want them around to
Healthy.
actually exercise the extension, right? The Detroit Lions will probably go and be the favorites. I'll get to the Commanders probably right at the top of segment 2. But let's hear from Matt Derry, because they're one of those teams that are contending to try to be the team that knocks off the Philadelphia Eagles.
Pro Football Focus. We love PFF. Second straight year that the Detroit Lions' very own Penei Sewell has made the list as the number 1 player. Again, these are all players under 25 years of age. Now, the list excludes Sauce Gardner and Aiden Hutchinson of the Lions, who are under 25 now, but will turn 25 before week 1. So actually, it's everybody under 25, right? Not 25 and under, but under 25.
The game everybody wanted to see last year was a healthy Detroit team against a healthy Philadelphia team. Never happened because the team that you cover, Washington, went up there and handled business. Talk to me about Washington and Detroit, and which one of those teams has the best chance, in your opinion, to knock off the Eagles?
The Washington Commanders do. And that's not even disrespect to the Detroit Lions, but it's the Washington Commanders, because if anything, experience matters, right? And the Washington Commanders have 3 games of experience against this Philadelphia Eagles team to draw off of last year. Again, the big reason the Washington Commanders lost 2 of those 3 games against Philadelphia Eagles was partially turnovers, but also partially the inability to contain Saquon Barkley for 4 quarters. The first loss on Thursday night, I think it was week 12, week 11 maybe. Don't quote me on that, but it was around there.
Yeah,
they contained Saquon Barkley, did a very good job, had a 4th quarter lead, and then Saquon busted 2 big runs in the 4th quarter, both of them for touchdowns, and that's all it takes. You know what I mean? That is all it takes when you're talking about playing against competitive teams. The Philadelphia Eagles escape at home in prime time with a victory. The second time around, the Eagles actually, with Kenny Pickett at quarterback, because Jalen Hurts gets injured in that game, were in control of that game. A Devontae Smith dropped pass in the 4th quarter gives the Commanders back the ball. They end up driving down the field. Jamison Crowder catches a game-winning touchdown from Jaden Daniels. So that really just kind of shows you the razor blade that these games really sit on, Wig. And I know that the NFC Championship game, like if the only game you saw between the Eagles and Commanders was the NFC Championship game, you're going to hear me say the Commanders have the best chance. You're going to go, what is this dude talking about? How does he get paid to do this job? And I agree with you. It's amazing to me that I get paid to do this as well. So I agree with that sentiment. But here's the thing. Go back and watch that game. If you don't believe me, go back and watch that game and realize it took 4 fumbles, 4 giveaways by the Washington Commanders offense before that game really started to get out of hand. And
giveaways while they were driving, or they were too close to their own end zone.
The kickoff was close to the one, man. Yeah. Listen, and what I hate about the De'Ami Brown one, you're covering De'Ami Brown now. I love De'Ami. De'Ami's my dude. I text him after he signed the Jags. I said, hey, bro, go kill it down in Duval, man. Show him what you're made of. I wish all the best of luck to De'Ami. But when he caught that pass and was running upfield, I'm literally sitting here saying, De'Ami, put it away, put it away, put it away, put it away. Because I told you this, Wig. He carries that thing like a loaf of bread. And what happened? He fumbled. And people in the press box are like, oh, Dave, you called it. I'm like, bro, I'm not happy that I called that. Anyway, that's a different conversation. But here's the bottom line.
I didn't even know he fumbled a lot. And when he did it, I was saying put it away, because I know how the Eagles are at home, and I know how they get fueled off of stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. So my thing is this. The Washington Commanders, very competitive against Philadelphia Eagles already. Again, go back and watch the game if you don't believe me and look at the point. Yes, there is a point where basically the Commanders are like, all right, Cancun on 3. 1, 2, 3, Cancun. Right? And the Eagles are like, all right, we're going to the Super Bowl. This is a lot of fun. We're at home. The fans are loud. This is exciting. There is a point where that game comes to that point. Up to then, very competitive despite 4 giveaways. The other part of this is, again, coaching matters. Context matters. The Detroit Lions lost both of their coordinators.
Yeah.
One coordinator is coming in from the Denver Broncos, offensive coordinator. Denver Broncos offense has been very mid the 2 years he was the pass game coordinator for the Denver Broncos. Now, that's not to say he's going to be mid in Detroit, but that's the only comparison we really have. Now, I would say that he's got more tools with the Lions offense than he did with the Broncos offense. So let's be fair here. But coaching matters. New coordinators matter. Dan Campbell sets the tone. Dan Campbell does not set the game plan. So that is going to be very, very influential. Kelvin Shepard, the new defense coordinator, grew up in the Lions organization. He worked under Aaron Glenn. So everybody says, hey, there's your built-in continuity. Fantastic. Guess what? Both of the Eagles' new coordinators in 2023 grew up in the Eagles organization, worked under the coordinators they replaced, and it was a train wreck. Why? Because coordinating game planning and calling on game day, totally different once you get behind the wheel. It's like saying you learn to drive watching your dad drive the family minivan, and then your first car is a semi-truck. It is not the same thing. Kelvin Shepherd, I wish him all the best. I'm glad that Dan Campbell lets him be him, because that's exactly what he needs to be. But the problem is all those contextual factors are absolutely going to play a factor in Detroit. I'm not saying it's going to go terribly, but what I'm saying is we don't know how it's going to go until we get to the season. So for that reason, I got to put the Commanders ahead of the Lions, just because the continuity, the experience, and the inexperience on the Lions staff, all that stuff has to matter.
It does. And check this out. Kelvin Shepherd can be just as good as Aaron Glenn.
He can be better.
But watch this. But watch this. Right? So check this out. What about the fact that he has to find another Kelvin Shepherd, though? See, sometimes we think it's just replacing the person. No, sometimes it's replacing the person and replacing the person that's replacing the person. And that's how it starts going. You can't tell me that in New England, coach didn't help him, right? But it didn't hurt. But when they kept losing them over and over and over, that happened to Nick Saban at Alabama. You lose them over and over and over. You lose Lane Kiffin. You lose Kirby Smart. You keep losing them, and eventually there's going to be enough slippage for somebody to step up and get you. All right, so there's one team that thinks they can beat everybody, and they never do, and that's Dallas. We're going to get to them. But there's another team that on paper actually did beat two of those three teams we just talked about, and probably should have beat the third one. And as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we'll get to them and their chances in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is brought to you and sponsored by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. They are all in, man. And let me explain. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free and share it with your network and get qualified candidates all in one place. So post your job. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write your descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people in deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Rolling along here on Locked On NFL with my man David Harrison, as we are always busy trying to bring you the best NFL coverage from around the league, especially in the offseason with these OTAs. I got to get to Tampa, man, because I saw Tampa last year beat Philly. I saw them beat Detroit. And I saw them have Washington on the ropes. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that luck isn't when opportunity meets preparation. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Washington didn't convert on 4th down. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they didn't play well that game. But what I am telling you is this. With about 5 minutes and 20 some odd seconds left to go, I thought Washington was going to lose the game. So that means Tampa was a pretty damn good football team that people really, really didn't want to see, especially when they started getting a little bit healthier towards the end of the year. Listen to my man. Hey, man, this is our dude, Yarko, the chef, I call him, here, Locked On Bucks.
Thursday night game is going to be, as Pat Donovan says, at the Rams in Week 13 for Thanksgiving night. For the record, if the Bucks are going to play on Thanksgiving, I would much prefer it be the night game rather than against the Lions in the 12 o'clock game or against the Cowboys in the afternoon game. I have way too much cooking and eating to do early in the day to have to worry about sitting down and watching a football game. By kickoff of the late game, I'm good. I'm going to make a couple of turkey sliders with the leftover dinner rolls and the turkey. I'm going to kick back. I'm going to watch the game, and then I'm going to go live on YouTube afterwards. It's perfect.
And y'all thought I called him the chef just to call him a chef. No, like he really is a chef. And he's talking about eating that food on Thursday night. I'm talking about him being in a game against another team that we'll mention later on that is a serious contender. How do you feel about the Bucs coming into this year?
Well, let me talk about one thing first and foremost. The Buccaneers did not give away that wild card game. Okay?
I didn't say that.
I understand that. No, you may not have said, but some people are out there saying that stuff. And listen, I covered the Buccaneers for a long time. I covered the Washington Commanders. This is my 4th season going into it. And I will tell you right now, when the Washington Commanders got the football back with 4 minutes and 41 seconds left in the game, all of the Commanders media over there said, this game's over.
Yep.
This game's a wrap. This is a wrap. And I'll tell you right now, the Buccaneers fans, Buccaneers media, you want to go back and say, oh, that last drive, they gave it away. Let me tell you something, Wig. First drive of the second half, Washington Commanders possessed the ball 4.5 minutes. Second drive of the second half, they possessed the ball 5.5 minutes. Third drive, 2 minutes, 10 seconds. They lost it on a touchdown. Okay, we'll take the quick touchdown.
Yeah, we'll
last drive of the game, 4 minutes, 41 seconds. That was by design, homie. That was not an accident. That was not a trip. But here's the other side of the thing. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the flip side had more than 5 possessions that lasted less than 3 minutes. That's what happens to tired defenses at the end of
they get worn out.
Games, they give up points. They give up points, right? But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers gave up 13 points in the second half, 10 points in the first half. It was all by design. It was all by design. Anyway, that being said, Tampa Bay Buccaneers absolutely have one of the best teams in the NFC this year. In fact, I would say if they're not the 4th best team in the NFC, they're probably the 3rd best team in the NFC. And if they're the 4th best team in the NFC, there's 2 in the NFC East that are going to be better than them, along with the champion of the NFC North. That's why they're going to be the 4th best team. Sorry, NFC West, you're just not up there right now. We'll see if the San Francisco 49ers can save you during the season. But when you've got a Hall of Famer walking in Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, who outside of injury derailments and poor quarterback play in the beginning of his career should be multi-time All-Pro, should be on a Hall of Fame path himself. You've got a new rookie in Emeka Egbuka who is going to help diversify that Washington Commanders offense. Again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, they are coming into a very similar situation as the Philadelphia Eagles. They've got a new
McMillan, that kid, that rookie.
McMillan is great too. We were all surprised they went receiver in the first round because of Jalen McMillan. But hey, the more spoils you have, the better off you. Like, let's see the Buccaneers go 4 wide. Let's just make it college. You know what I mean? Let's just do it. But here's the thing: the Commander or the Buccaneers. I keep saying the Commanders. The Buccaneers have a very similar situation. The Eagles, they've got a new offensive coordinator. It's their 3rd straight year with a new offensive coordinator. Now, their first one, Dave Canales, was able to make it work, and he was able to get a head coaching job. They brought in Liam Cohen. He was able to make it work. He got a head coaching job. We'll see what happens here. This is the nightmare scenario. Anytime a team has a good quarterback or a young quarterback, this is the nightmare scenario. This is why everybody wants you to hire an offensive head coach, because guess what? If the Jaguars, if Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence are a match made in heaven, or if Liam Cohen and Arch Manning next year are a match made in heaven, guess what? You don't have to worry about Liam Cohen getting hired away, because there's no super head coach job out there for him to get taken away from being a head coach in Jacksonville, right? This is why fan bases hate seeing defensive coordinators get brought in. The good news is, even though they're losing these coordinators, they're keeping some of their staff. And I think keeping some of their staff is going to help a little bit keep that continuity. Plus, if the offensive coordinator comes in and understands, I've got a future Hall of Famer walk-in, I've got an all-pro caliber receiver in Chris Godwin, I've got experienced linemen who know what they're doing, and I've got a quarterback that, listen, let's be honest, Baker is going to bake. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. If you're in the meeting room, and you're like, all right, Baker, check it out. 3rd and 2, we're going to run a triple option. You're going to keep it, run to the left, pitch it to Rashad at the last second. And Baker says, nah, I'm gonna check into a sluggo, and we're going for the touchdown. Guess what you better do in your game plan? You better change it. All right, 3rd and 2, we're going double, we're going sluggo, we're going for the touchdown. Because that's what he's gonna do anyway, bro. So as long as your offensive coordinator understands who your quarterback is, that offense should not be a problem. Todd Bowles, honestly, the problem in Tampa, and when there has been problems, it's been their defense. Again, talk to Buccaneers fans about that wild card match. Where did they give away that game, quote unquote? On defense. They gave it away on defense. Todd Bowles is the defense coordinator. He's also the head coach. That's where your question lies. Whether or not that unit got better or not, I can't really tell you. Is Hassan Reddick really going to make that group better? I don't necessarily believe he's going to. They got a new cornerback in Benjamin Morrison, but the expectation is that Jamel Dean is going to be on his way out. So to me, that's basically a push. So the more people get experience against Todd Bowles' defense, the more tape they have to study on him, the less he gets intuitive or ingenuity sets in, the easier he is to figure out. So I think that's the big question mark with the Bucs, honestly, is unfortunately their head coach.
Yep. And you highlighted something we just talked about. When you continuously lose coaches, you can lose one, maybe lose two, but when you get to option 3 and option 4, maybe they just ought to do what the 49ers and the Rams do when you have a defensive coordinator. Pretend you have an offensive coordinator and stack your offensive staff with a whole bunch of dudes that's going to keep getting jobs, because those offenses don't miss a beat. And the assistant wide receivers coach keeps getting the head coaching jobs, and the quarterback's passing game coordinator keeps getting hired. So just kind of do what they do if you have a defensive coordinator. It seems to be working. I tell you what, new coach for the Dallas Cowboys, but sort of an old motto. They're building the trenches and then they're going out. They're doing both. They're building the infrastructure and they're going out doing high-profile stuff. They got a new wide receiver. Let's talk about the Cowboys and whether or not they can get it all together. Here's the boys from Locked On Cowboys, and they'll let you know.
Dak Prescott not only was present at practice, but he was actually practicing. He was working with the first team. From all reports, was moving around really well. I think there were some fears that maybe Dak would be limited this offseason. Maybe he wouldn't be a completely 100% for training camp. But on May 20th, looked pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I think the kind of spectrum of where we expected things to be is like anywhere from, maybe Dak will take a couple of snaps to, Dak will take a lot of snaps, but he's not going to take all the snaps with the first team. And I think what we ended up getting from what it sounds like due to reports is that he got all the snaps with the first team that were available. So, and then in interviews afterwards, he confirmed that he's been cleared for all activity.
I give Dallas a hard time because it's fun to do. Truth of the matter is, when you look at their roster, they are really good on paper. And I saw Siobhan Ravel running like he's going to be ready. I saw Diggs, the cornerback, backpedaling like he's going to be ready. I even saw Overshown, the linebacker. I don't think he's going to play early this year, if this year at all. But I saw him out there too. If they get everybody together and they can get buy-in from George Pickens, a healthy Dak Prescott could really, really make Dallas dangerous.
I mean, a healthy Dak Prescott is where it all starts. You know what I mean? Look, I don't think Dak Prescott is like MVP caliber, top 5 quarterback in the NFL or anything like that, but he's not bad. He's not a bad quarterback. And with the Dallas Cowboys, you absolutely need him healthy. And that's why they went out and they invested in the offensive line. We talked about this pre-draft, and, a lot of people thought they were going to take a receiver. Matthew Golden maybe was going to be the target and all that stuff. And we talked about it. We said, well, that's great. Matthew Golden can be running downfield that 4 whatever speed while Dak Prescott is laying on the ground looking up at the roof of AT&T Stadium. Well, now they got an offensive line. We'll see how Tyler Booker does. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't as high on Tyler Booker as a lot of people were. So to me, that's not like the most impressive selection in my book. However, it is an effort, right, to get that offensive line better. And that's what you want if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. On the defensive side of the ball, they got better defensively. They got better with their pass rush. They went, like you said, try to secure some of these holes. If they got guys who can't play early because of injuries, they've got rookies that can at least come in and have at least some sort of, indication that there is a good amount of potential there. Dominez Araku was one of my favorite players in the NFL draft. So I'm excited that I get to watch him twice a year. I hate that I have to do it while he's wearing a Cowboys uniform. Right. My question for the Cowboys, Wig, is the same question I had last year. Where's your running game? How are you going to bleed the clock? How are you going to control the game? How are you going to control the ball? How are you going to do to opposing defenses what the Washington Commanders did against Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild card round? Because I'll tell you right now, teams that cannot run the ball, they're never going to be secure in a victory. So you might be up 10 points in the fourth quarter. You better keep trying to score. And the problem is we all know this. The more you put the ball in the air, the more there's an opportunity for the defense to come down with it as well as the offense. So we'll see, man. And then, Dak, look, he's only played 2 complete seasons in the last 5 due to injuries. He's getting older. You and I can attest to this. The older you get, the harder it is to bounce back. So, I'm glad that first of all, I love that NFL is so intriguing that we're talking about first team reps in May.
Right.
But hey, I mean, take what you can get, you know what I mean? So we'll see how those first team reps look in September. But Dak Prescott, it starts and ends with Dak Prescott. Once Dak goes down, if he goes down, the Cowboys essentially know that, their season's over. At least with Joe Milton, though, if Dak goes down, you can still throw 70-yard bombs.
Yeah,
so you know what I mean? Teams still
going to have some fun at least with Milton, right?
Yeah.
You'll have some fun. 2 teams looking to have fun. The Packers and the Rams are set up to do exactly just that this season. Could they be the teams that, especially in the first round or the second round, that the Philadelphia Eagles have to watch out for? We'll talk about it in just a second here. Third segment on Locked On NFL. I always joke with Pete about Peter Bukowski saying he's pointing to everything about the Packers except the one problem, and that's Jordan Love. He disagrees with me, and I understand it. And he probably should disagree with me. I'm just being a little bit harsh. But here's Peter Bukowski talking about the Packers this year, and if you hear him, it sounds like he thinks they have a shot too. Check it out.
When the Green Bay Packers lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, it looked like they were one or two impact players away. And then in the offseason, they didn't actually find any, at least that we know of. This was already a complete roster in that there really are very, very, very few, if any, true holes when it comes to, okay, that position is just like, that guy stinks, and I don't know why they didn't upgrade that spot. That doesn't really exist on this team. And there are even the best teams usually have a place or two where you're like, so what's going on there exactly? Particularly if the Packers do, in fact, mend the fence with Jair Alexander. Then you're looking around and kind of going, well, okay, you'd like to get some more impact play from a couple different places, but they're good everywhere.
See what Peter just did? He set himself up for me to beat him up again because he said they're good everywhere. So if a team is good everywhere year after year, right, and you drop me off of Mars and you tell me what he just told me, I'll say, quarterback must not be very good then. If they're not either the quarterback or the coach, something's missing if they can't take that next step, David.
I mean, listen, if the Packers are good everywhere, then yeah, your quarterback at a minimum should just be able to drive the car and win you 10, 11 games on a year-to-year basis. And I know the Packers won double-digit games last year, but like I said before, I'm sorry, Wig, they did against the AFC South and the NFC West. Not exactly a murderer's row of competition that the Packers faced, right? Look, everybody's good in the NFL. Like, let's be really clear here. I've had this conversation on my own show several times. I've had to tell fans over and over again over the years. It takes a supreme amount of talent to suck in the National Football League. Like, I don't think people understand how much talent and athletic ability you have to be the second quarterback on the practice squad. Like, if your team even carries two quarterbacks on the practice squad, like regular people like me and you and most people watching this show will never, ever live up to the ability of a practice squad receiver that never sees the field. You know what I'm saying? It takes a lot of, ask any rookie once they get to the season, what have you learned so far about the NFL? What's one of the first things they always say? Everybody here is good. There ain't no future accountants. There ain't no future. You know, they might be future real estate agents, but that's because after they retire, they're going to go into real estate because they see money in land ownership, right? Everybody is good in the NFL, Peter. All right. The Washington Commanders have good players everywhere. The Dallas Cowboys have good players everywhere. The Green Bay Packers, and listen, and they're going to have me talking bad about the Green Bay Packers. I actually like the Green Bay Packers.
I like them too.
Here's the thing. The Packers have no number one receiver. Not a one. Every receiver on their roster is a number two somewhere else.
They think they just drafted one.
Number one receiver.
They think they just drafted one.
We'll see. We'll see what Matthew Golden turns into for sure.
Yeah.
We'll see what he
Greg
turns into.
Dennis 2.0 is what I said.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Their offensive line, good, not great. Tucker Kraft, good tight end. Yeah, not great tight end. Josh Jacobs, actually one of my favorite running backs in the NFL. Can he carry your team like Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley? No. That's before we even get to the defensive side of the ball. Defensive side of the ball, good, not great in the front seven. Good, not great in the secondary. Your best cornerback, arguably when he's healthy, doesn't even want to be on the team anymore, right? So, like, yeah, the Packers are good everywhere. Congrats. I don't know, man. Like that's 8-8 plus 1, depending on which side of the ball that extra game falls on. It's not enough to be good, man. You got to be great. And if you're not great, you need your quarterback to make you great. Jordan Love has to make the Packers great. And so far, Jordan Love has not made the Packers great. I think Packers fans and even some of the media are a little spoiled after covering Hall of Fame quarterback careers for 30 years with 2 Super Bowl titles, by the way, for those 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play, that they're basically just expecting Jordan Love to be the next in that line. And listen, man, I mean, the kid hasn't even hit 70% completion percentage in a single season yet in his career. One of the first marks of being one of the great quarterbacks of your time is the ability to deliver the ball consistently and accurately. Jordan Love's got to hit 70%. And if you can put that on his receivers, you can put that on his coordinators. If you put that on anybody but Jordan Love, then guess what? You're not that good everywhere. And if you're good everywhere, then it's on your quarterback, which means you're not that good at quarterback. So again, you can't have it both ways.
Now going from a team like that, where people are saying, I think they're good, but I don't see a bunch of good results, to going to this. I don't see why they're so good, but damn, they're good all the time. The Rams. Listen to the Rams, man. Check out my man from Locked On Rams. He's going to tell you they're trying to even get even better, and they're reversing it and maybe going back to do something that they did right before they won the Super Bowl. Check this out.
Jalen Ramsey is one of the top names on the trade block right now. The Rams have made no secret about it, that they've kept the door open and that they have had, quote, ongoing talks about the possibility of bringing back Ramsey to the Rams. And the next question is, when could a deal get done, and what does his market look like? Well, Adam Schefter, he gave us an update yesterday, and he said, quote, more interest in Jalen Ramsey than people realize. There is more interest in him than what was originally believed to be the case. There's teams out there that think that he can get back to that player that he was, or that he still has some prime years left, and that, yes, maybe his overall production doesn't scream superstar at this stage of his career, but he still plays a premium position. He still has that track record of being really good to elite, and teams believe that if you get him into their building, that they can find a way to optimize him and maximize what he still has left in his career.
Don't know if Jalen Ramsey will end up with the Rams. I do know Devontae Adams is there, but I will tell you this. There is no team, in my opinion, that does a better job of knowing when to keep your draft picks, when to trade them, when to go out and get a guy because you're really, really close, and when to let those guys go and go make their money somewhere else. Nobody does that better than Les Snead and the Rams.
No, 100%. You want to know why the Rams keep being relevant even when they think they're not relevant? I mean, this is a team that was about to trade Cooper Kupp because they're like, our season's pretty much over, so we'll go ahead and trade one of the best players we've had in our franchise in a long time. And then they said, whoa, wait, maybe not. We're playing the NFC West. Our season might not be over. Next thing you know, they probably should have beat the Philadelphia Eagles, and my butt probably should have been in Los Angeles watching Jane Daniels win an NFC Championship game in his hometown. But anyway, that's a different story for another time. But not only are the Rams already a good team, and I remember telling people, Wig, I was like, hey, like, y'all are sleeping on the Rams. The Rams are a very good team. They're not a very consistent team right now. That was their problem in 2024. Consistency is what escaped them, but the talent level was absolutely great. Sean McVay and Leslie, like you said, drive a very good ship, and now they've got the best wide receiver in the National Football League, and that is Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is the best wide receiver in the NFL. Not Jamar Chase, not Jefferson, not A.J. Brown, is Devontae Adams. Because anybody listening or watching this right now, if you're not a fan of this team, or even a fan of a team in the division because you pay close attention to your division rivals, you have 1.5 seconds to tell me who was the quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders last year. You can't do it. You can't tell me who the quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders was last year. However, Devontae Adams played 3 games with that guy. In those 3 games, he had over 200 yards receiving. He then went to the New York Jets and the train wreck that was Aaron Rodgers and the dumpster fire that was happening in New Jersey. And this guy still came out of that season with over 1,000 yards receiving and 8 touchdown catches. I'm sorry. You are the best wide receiver in the NFL. If you can go through those situations, lose all those games with your starting quarterback in Las Vegas, and still come out of it as a 1,000-yard receiver with almost a dozen or with almost double-digit touchdowns, you are the best wide receiver in the NFL as far as I'm concerned. So Devontae Adams with Matthew Stafford back is going to be even better. I like what they have in Puka Nacua. Obviously, I think that they have a good culture there. They have good leadership there. And again, the NFC West still not that great. The Seattle Seahawks, in my opinion, got worse. I know Sam Darnold was a quote unquote MVP candidate or whatever, but nah, he's not better than Geno Smith. And the Arizona Cardinals, I don't know where they're going. The San Francisco 49ers, we'll see. We'll see if the San Francisco 49ers come back to life. Okay. But if they don't come back to life, then the Rams are the best team in the NFC West. And the great thing for them is they could potentially be one of the most healthy, rested teams entering the postseason. And I expect them to make some noise this year. So, yeah, they could absolutely dethrone the Philadelphia Eagles as early as the second round, like they almost did in 2024.
There you have it, folks. That is our who can dethrone the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC East. The NFC period. tomorrow, Chris Carter and I will examine who can dethrone Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC.
The only man on this network that talks more than I do, Chris Carter.
Oh, that's my boy now. Yeah, both of y'all know y'all talk good though. So I like good talk. I'll let you go all day if you got good talk. If you want to find out more about all of these teams, make sure you check out Locked On NFL Scouting with the host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino, because they will make you smarter NFL fans, and it will definitely help you navigate yourself through the offseason. So make sure you check that out wherever you get your podcast. Until next time, I'm Tony Wiggins. He's David Harrison. We'll see you next time here on Locked On NFL.